I think it's safe to say that a lot of Deadlock fans have been wondering what's next for the game right now, and I think we may have some leaks to at least give us a good idea that map changes may be what is coming next in Deadlock, at least according to this leak. Hey everyone, this is Connor here at Dead Unlocked, and I wanted to talk about this. I saw this last out on X, and I was very excited to talk about it today. I also saw that Deadlock Project 8 reposted this, so I figured it was, some extra reason for me to go ahead and talk about this. But this is a post from this user up here in the top left corner. You can see their name. But I want to go ahead and read the leaks we have and kind of explain the context and why I think these leaks are significant for Deadlock, and in particular why I think we really could be getting some new map assets, maybe some continued art overhaul for the map. And yeah, so let's get right into what we've got here. So, quote, "Now this is mostly accurate. I don't know about minions, but map has a ton of changes, mostly on Green Lane. I forgot which side it is. They're calling it the Asylum. The bank area behind Yellow Walker, opposite corner. Basically, that is the Asylum area. I think Venator not dropping soon could be possible. Might not line up with when the next major update is really, so they hold him back. Yeah, mostly focus is on art assets and map layout for Yellow and some miscellaneous stuff in the jungle. Neutral creeps, I think, and Walker rework is still coming, plus new bases. The most recent base design is quite nice. The most recent base redesign is quite nice. Sorry, tongue twister. Fixed a lot of the issues with the one told you about where it was very attacker favored. Basically, they're experimenting with breaking spawn into 3 areas. And they have vents in the base and the side area. It's like half a circle around the new altar, so defenders can come in from the front or 2 sides. Sorry, some typo errors. There's some grammatical errors, trying to kind of read through those. Another image though, so let's take a look. All right, next part of this tweet is this here, which just looks like a Discord exchange. Remember the leaks we saw with the patron actually sitting on the throne? So it's like Eldritch Forest versus Steampunk Gothic. Basically what I gather is they're making one side candle wax steampunk factory guys like the Walker tier 2 that got leaked, and the other side wooden foresty, probably linked to Druid. And again, the text of this post says info regarding the upcoming update, experimental branch, ARAM, new patron model, and Venator status. Got this info from leaker Minesweeper, and as you can see, this is the user over here in the top left or top right that posted this. So I want to at least kind of somewhat go through this. I know there's a lot here, and it's kind of just like a smattering of text. This looks like just an exchange between some insiders that may have some information. As always, I feel like I have to say at the beginning of all these videos, this is a total leak. I would call this basically just a rumor at this point. So don't take this as like hard, fast, absolute facts, but this is something that we can at least speculate about. And I'm going to show some posts later and some things that we've looked at in the past couple months that would line up with this potentially being the case. Let's kind of dig in here. So map has a ton of changes. They mention a lot about green side changes in this new Asylum area. They also mention that Yellow is going to get a lot of changes. This could kind of line up with, again, more structural changes. I could definitely see, if you all have played Deadlock at least once, that the neutral camps have a pretty goofy look. They're just kind of these little alien-looking dudes that are, moving some dangly thing around. So I could see those easily getting changed. And then definitely the base as well, making it a little bit more defender-friendly. At least just some more areas to like flank into the base and attack would make a ton of sense. So this, like I said, this does make quite a bit of sense to me. Neutral creeps, I think, and Walker rework still coming, plus new bases. Trying to think if there's anything else here that's super monumental. Candle troops look different depending on side, but it's subtle. I also think this is a really good change. I feel like you want a pretty I don't know what it's called. Where both sides mirror each other. Wow, absolute no words there. But I feel like you want it to be symmetrical. Jeez. With just some subtle differences like this, to where you don't feel like you're burdened being on either side, but you can kind of clearly tell what the theme and the archetype of your side is. That kind of stuff really does make sense. And then if we go over and take a look at this one, again, yeah, patron sitting on the throne. This idea of it being an Eldritch Forest versus Steampunk Gothic is really cool. I've never heard it articulated in that way, and this is just their words, obviously, so it's not like this is a hard fact, but this is super, super interesting. What I gather, they're making one side Candlewax Steampunk Factory guys, like the Walker, and the other side Wooden Foresty Druid. So this would give the map certainly some flavor. Having kind of 2 different sides opposing each other would make sense in terms of from like a lore perspective. But all in all, I do want to take a second to kind of put these posts in context. Should we believe this? Could there actually be changes to the map? What about the Halloween update? What about these new heroes that we looked at previously? Let's kind of get into how this might fit into that and what we should think about this moving forward. All right, and this image is part of why I wanted to have this discussion and why I thought these leaks were worth covering today. These were posted back in the middle of September, and I'll read the kind of text post from this. This is from Deadlock Project 8, who is affiliated with an account called Pauselock. I don't know if you guys are familiar with these two accounts. These are X accounts. I think both Russian accounts, kind of affiliated with some folks from Valve. But the text of this post says, as you know, thanks to Pauselock, new textures for Patron and Shrines are already in the game files. Most likely we'll see them in future updates. People have already started making some fan art. What do you think? Will Patron beg this before? So these are things that have already been in the text file, or in the game files rather, at least dating back to September. And these would really correlate with some of the changes that we're hearing in this latest leak, talking about the patron sitting on the throne, the kind of eldritch theming, some different things like that. So these are just some early rendered files from what it looks like of what the base could look like, a redone base. You have the new, I've seen these isolated as well. I couldn't find the post for this video, but these are the new shrines. They're almost like these windmill vent type or fan type things. And then we have a creature of some kind, a patron sitting on a throne in a newly renovated base. This could just be one set of appearances for this, especially if there's going to be kind of themes for different sides. This could just be one side. Not exactly sure here. This is another look at the patron. So looks to be some kind of like horned figure, definitely keeping up with candles, these massive vents running throughout. It looks like there's going to be some other kind of textures and elements throughout, but this is certainly a pretty rough image. And then we have a small image here of, what the patron looks like standing up, this kind of amber hand image. Try and zoom in a little bit here, but so this is what it could look like. And this would kind of line up with that more druid side of, I think, what they were talking about. This would fit into that a little bit more. So we already have at least somewhat of a precedent for the fact there could be base changes and map changes coming, outside of the fact that we can probably just deduce those things are happening based on every single part of Deadlock slowly getting a facelift and a graphical update and kind of getting fit into a larger theme in the game, whether it be heroes, mid, the hideout, like all these different kinds of things, right? And I think map objectives and jungle objectives and just kind of the overall look of the map is something that players are immersed in for such a long period of time that this is going to be something that kind of slowly gets built and pieced together, at least in my mind. But there's at least one more leak I want to talk about, kind of fitting into this whole picture of map changes, map objectives. So let's go ahead and hop over to that one. All right, finally we get to a leak that we've actually already covered on the channel. This is from a little under 3 weeks ago, 20 days ago, from a Brazilian player whose name I'm not going to attempt to pronounce. And we've covered this on the channel already. This is where we first got the idea that Venator could be in the game and the new Vanguard objective could be added to the jungle. Just as a recap, this Vanguard objective was previously, quoting from the post here, was previously thought to have been a game mode. It's a jungle objective for Deadlock where the player presence accelerates a capture in a radius, provides buffs instead of souls, and potentially to replace the earn mechanic. Potentially to replace the earn mechanic is a tricky line there. I would have to think this is in addition to the earn, but I could certainly be wrong. There are also strings like patron, male, Vanguard, enemy capture attempt, and some voice lines that hint this might be the case. And then we go down to the bottom here, and they talk about the Venator hero, and that Venator may be coming in a Halloween update. And this kind of Halloween update has been something that has been talked about a lot. Several have debated between, whether Valve is taking kind of a break or a little bit of a respite away from Deadlock in October for a lot of the month, maybe probably after this last balance update we got, or whether they're going to come back and there's going to be some kind of big Halloween update that we should expect with new heroes. And a lot of the, easy things to do would be to suspect that it would be Venator and Boho, which is kind of like a witch hunter and a witch for Halloween. That still makes sense in my head, and I don't think this disqualifies any of that. But I do think that maybe as well, or instead, or maybe just as a priority, or in the mix as well, at the very least, are certainly some map changes. And here's some clarification as well. The new game mode is still in development and very real, little information about it, but many different leakers confirmed, and the dev team wants it. Development of Deadlock is going smoothly behind the scenes. However, consistent content updates depend heavily on private playtester feedback. For instance, a new spawn room was recently introduced in a private test that was received negatively, prompting Valve to revise it. You'll probably never see this version of the spawn room, and this setback costs time, but provides valuable insights. So the question I have from that post, this is a really interesting nugget of information. If this is, to be taken as like truth and I guess, canon for Deadlock's development, right? Is that true? And is that map that they're talking about, is that spawn room they're talking about, the one that leaked, that we just talked about, that we showed the images of back in, you know, early September, right? Are these the same ones, or is this new one that we got the images of actually what they're doing next with the spawn room? That is a huge question. That's something I honestly don't have the answer to, but at the very least, when we piece together that there are map changes coming, specifically a mentioned spawn room changes are certainly coming to Deadlock, I would think. Now, are they the images we showed earlier? Have those been scrapped? Or is there somewhere in between? That's where I don't know, and I feel like there is just pure speculation happening at that point, right? But I do think if you're a Deadlock player and you're trying to kind of figure out what's next for the game, I would expect some amalgamation of the following few things. Number one, updates to the map as a whole. We got kind of like the framework of the new map set in place. A lot of the art for that has been slowly kind of updated along, I think around the time when a lot of the new heroes came into play. But still, there's still a lot of the map that feels like it needs a graphical update. I made a joke about the, kind of neutral jungle creeps, the tier 2, tier 1, tier 3 camps. I think certainly those will get an update. And this also falls in line with the spawn room getting update, the patron getting update, the shrines getting updates. All of that, I think, graphically will get an update somewhat soon. The Vanguard objective, I think, is another one we should at least keep an eye on. I don't know if we can hard stop fully expect this to be added to the game, but I do think that this would make a lot of sense, number one. And two, if we're talking about other map updates being on the table, we have to consider this certainly being on the table as well. Number two, so map updates, Vanguard, all of that being kind of one bucket. I think that is still a very, very viable thing to expect from Deadlock's development moving forward, right? Next thing is this Halloween update. We talked about it on the channel before. I still don't exactly know how to think about this. I think that we probably will get something. It makes sense right now. It's the 14th. We still have 2 solid weeks that we could be waiting for a Halloween kind of update. I don't know if this will be next Tuesday, but I could certainly see this being something around the week of Halloween that we get a big update to kind of to push us through the rest of Q4, setting up a big update towards the end of the year. I've always been bullish on Deadlock making big strides in Q4 of this year. Now, whether that's just this update or this update and something else, maybe the map gets split into one update and the Halloween stuff gets split into another, I'm not exactly sure. There is just, like I said, some speculation happening here. But as someone who has kept an eye on every single bit of leaks that have come through, and I'm trying to go very much Charlie attaching the strings to the wall in Always Sunny, I really do think there's reason to expect those 2 big sets of things coming soon. So to recap, a map redo of some kind, and then a hero redo or a Halloween update with Venator, Boho, and all the other things that we thought might be coming in this update. I would expect both of those things to come to Deadlock very shortly. One thing for sure is that I continue to be impressed with Deadlock's development cycle. We have to put all of this in context and really continue to remember this is an alpha pre-release game that continues to deploy some of the most impressive and thoughtful and well-timed updates over the course of its lifespan that I've seen in a game in a really long time. So at least I like to end these videos on a positive note. I really believe in kind of, having my videos have some kind of a positive energy or connotation typically. If there's problems, we'll obviously call them out, authentically. But I really am excited for the future of Deadlock, especially, these updates, whether they happen now or in 6 months or a year, I'm still excited for them. So one thing's for sure, though, I'll be sure to keep you all updated if there are any updates to these leaks. If I hear anything, if anything is kind of solidified, or if we get any updates that actually get pushed out, we'll be sure to keep covering them here at Dead Unlocked. But as always, thank you all so much for tuning in. We've had some members started to roll in. Thank you all so much for joining our membership program. We really appreciate you all. Subscribers, likes, everything really goes to help the channel, and we're going to reinvest everything we can to keep making this channel as good as it can be. So, as always, thank you all so much for tuning in, and from our house to yours, we'll see you all next time here at Dead Unlocked.